Hey, this is Cole. Welcome back to another video. In this one, we want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the news and updates and changes that are going on in the space as a whole when it comes to AI, automations, and really just how all of it is just affecting our future. There's tons of crazy things that are going on, and it's so important for us to be up to date. And one of the really cool ones that are coming out is also going to be a little crazy is how AI is really going to be affecting the search space. And it's really important to think about this side because in a lot of ways, many businesses grow because of their ability to be seen by people through search, right? Through our behaviors of going on to YouTube or to Google or Yelp or some platform to identify potentially new businesses or people who can provide a service or a solution to maybe our problem or answer our questions, what have you, right? And when you start to embed AI into it, it completely changes the game of what can occur, giving it the ability to curate everything extremely uniquely to your wants and needs and your like how you've responded or asked questions in the past, um, and also to provide you maybe more data and insights than you saw before. So it could be the side of potential doom and gloom, right? We could always take our sides. I'd love to see which side you guys sort of are sitting on. If you throw it down in the comments below, is maybe on the more we'll say a little bit quote unquote sad side of how things are moving into more automation and more AI, where it's taking a larger role, or the benefit of AI really coming into play, helping to curate things more uniquely to each of us. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. It's really crazy with all the AI being there. So we're going to walk through a video I thought was really well put together. I'll actually have a link to it down in the description. And we're just going to walk through and we'll stop a few times going through and diving into the Search GPT prototype, essentially how OpenAI plans to really make its name or part of its impact in the search space. So let's dive in.
In this video, I'm going to be going over Search GPT, which is a new prototype that OpenAI just announced, which is a temporary prototype for the
Yeah.
new AI search feature that gives you fast and timely answers with clear and relevant sources. Let's just go through the video here. So you're going to be able to put in your query, and then once you submit the query, the response that you get back looks very similar to something like a response that you get back from Perplexity. It is very much in line with the branding of OpenAI like you'd
Yeah.
expect. And it does look like they even have some generative UI components, like when you ask questions about the weather there. It's going to be interesting to see some of the other generative UI components that they add as well, which they also touch on at the end of the blog post.
It will be very interesting to see how the search aspect actually changes. A lot of us have to go to a browser currently to go and ask questions. Surprisingly, a lot of people nowadays are also searching something like TikTok, right, to get human based responses to things. But how will that change? Will we still lean on human based content in a sense, right? AI in a lot of ways is trained on our information, but eventually it's curating and adjusting it um, in a different way. And some of the examples we'll probably dive into, you'll see where it's just giving data as a matter of fact instance, but also pulling in sources that are already out there, maybe for a specific area, and then providing you research details or links to various things that yes, Google search currently does in some capacity, but maybe doesn't give you as much of a description of what you're actually getting into before you click, right? A lot of it in Google has currently been optimized for search to find that page, not for you to get the most valuable information before clicking, right? Which does make a difference. So continue.
Let's just go to the next video here. Another thing that I noticed within this is it does have that autocomplete, which is something that ChatGPT doesn't have. And then for the sources themselves, they're not just going to reference a number and then show you the websites at the bottom. You're going to be able to have that reference just like that in line. And then if you see here, if I just pause this here, you will also have a tooltip where you'll be able to see clearly where that information is coming from. You'll also have this panel here of all of those links as well. So
Yeah.
it's very prominent where all of the different sources are coming from. And I think this is something that's definitely going to appease a bunch of different publishers, which is a big piece that they mentioned within the blog post, where they are going to be working with a number of different publishers to integrate their news and articles directly within this and give them a bit of control on how their answers are displayed. Obviously,
I had to stop it because part of this video is also us diving into the way that publishers think of big news channels and even just people just like you and I, right, are going to potentially have access to hmm, negative sense, as we said before, manipulate information or to change information. It will be very interesting to see how a lot of it is done and how AI is perceiving that information. Really unique ones on even the political side, if we go down that rabbit hole for half a second, is how is that data being aggregated? How is it being fact checked? How is it being properly approved? And it not just be more information pushed by, say, specific publishers, right? Um, it'd be really interesting to see the relationship between content curators and publishers and the AI search based platforms. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this because it's so new, it's developing, right? Things are changing all the time. But yeah.
you're going to be able to ask follow-up questions just like you'd expect, just like you'd use like a perplexity. There's really just references galore here. So there's the references at the end of these sentences. There's also those references in line on those little cards at the bottom there. And then there's going to be those references in the panel on the left-hand side here. So it looks like they're really taking the aim where they're trying to make it as prominent as possible, exactly and
Yeah.
very clearly where all the information is coming from. They mentioned with this product that they are going to be partnering with publishers and creators. This is something that I think Perplexity got a little bit of flack over the past couple months recently, where there was a bit of a controversy with some Forbes journalists, where they were a little bit unhappy with how Perplexity was displaying the results. There's an interesting debate going on with scraping and crawling and all of these things. If you have any strong opinions, put them in the comments below. I'm definitely curious to hear some more opinions on this sort of thing. They
Good
have
point.
some quotes from some of the executives of the publishers that they've partnered with, which I think do actually sum up what they're aiming to do quite well. So I'll just read this one to start. So AI search is going to become one of the key ways that people navigate the internet. And it's crucial in these early days that the technology is built in a way that values, respects, and protects journalism and publishers. We look forward to partnering with OpenAI in the process and creating a new way for readers to discover the Atlantic. Do you see that?
It'd be very interesting because at a certain point, what if you just let AI go on amongst itself? There, the need for actual publishers, it dramatically changes. Maybe journalists become more valuable, being able to report on and provide insights and their own opinions on something that is occurring. But maybe the publishers aren't as important in the future. In some aspects, it might be their way to protect themselves from going out of business, right? Yeah, it'd be very interesting. And there's so many baked in viewpoints that really could be that could cause a lot of friction with the thought of AI becoming the primary method of search, with it being such an important factor, right? Because it's essentially it's the extension of our brain for so many of us nowadays. That your phone is essentially the additive model that you just sort of separate away from a part of your brain. That knowing how AI is playing a role there is going to be very important to understand, especially how it influences and provides you with information, right? If it understands how you think, was it curating its response specific to what you want to hear or what is actually there, right? Is it adjusting that information from journalists or publishers or content curators specific to what it thinks you're going to be most engaged with based on your habits, or is it going to provide you with the more accurate truth? Not saying that your information or ideas are wrong, but that there is an objective difference between potentially what is fact and uh, fiction, right? So, anyways, continue.
Either coming out of the gate with this, or they really are definitely making an effort to partner with publishers. We've seen a number of deals that they've struck over the past several months that likely will be integrated into something like this. Another thing that stood out to me is that they mentioned that they're launching a way for publishers to manage how they appear in Search GPT. They don't really go into detail what that exactly means, but it's interesting to know it does seem to be pretty prudent to give publishers a little bit more control on how their results are displayed within the Search GPT interface. Now, the other thing to know with this is they lay out clearly that Search GPT is about search and is separate from training OpenAI's generative AI foundation models. What's interesting with this is that sites can be surfaced in search results even if they opt out of generative AI training. There is a way
Yeah,
that you
that's
can
always
include
been an
on your
issue.
website that you don't want your website to be included within the corpus that they're using for the training data in the OpenAI GPT series of models. It looks like there is a bit of a distinction here. Next, I think this quote from another one of the partners is pretty interesting as well. Sam and the truly talented team at OpenAI innately understand that for AI-powered search to be effective, it must be founded on the highest quality, most reliable information
Yeah.
furnished by trusted sources. For the heavens to be in equilibrium, the relationship between technology and content must be symbiotic and provenance must be protected. So it looks like they're really trying to partner and appease publishers. It almost reminds me a little bit of when Apple News came out and how they positioned that with publishers.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Again, I would love for you guys to give me your comments and ideas and thoughts on this because things are going to change pretty rapidly. Bing is already partnered with OpenAI right from the very beginning. Really, Microsoft, right? They just own Bing, but their system wasn't very good. Like it's using, but it's not fantastic. And then Google's tried to do its own thing. They've been using some sort of internal AI for years, right? But their model just has just not become. It's just not as good, right? Maybe it becomes better in the future, but they've just not been able to meet how good, say, Claude or OpenAI has been able to do things, and its ability to. The only big benefit there is its ability to be open source, and if you are able to run it locally or online, it's much more cost effective at scale. But it really depends on what your objective is. The big winners are still those two, and again, it's going to be very unique to see how someone who has not been in the search space, say OpenAI, could potentially become a massive leader in the space, dramatically changing the way that we all literally interact with the internet. So worth the thought. I thought it would be worth it for us to dive into this because it's just pretty important. And it really does provide a lot of potential future opportunities where if it does go live, as we imagine it might give us the opportunity to actually interact with it using our automated systems and building out processes to research information more effectively than we can today and to curate higher quality content for platforms or provide research or data and insights. So yeah, really cool. Hope it's helpful. Hope this is a good, interesting piece here. And if you guys want to look at more content just like this, feel free to like, follow, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys in another